My name is Madison Carter, and at 34, I thought I had the perfect life. A loving husband of 7 years, Jason, a successful career as a marketing director, and a beautiful home in the Denver suburbs. My best friend Natalie Stewart and I had been inseparable since college. 12 years of friendship, sharing every secret, or so I believed. Lately, Jason had been acting different. More attentive yet somehow distant. Then I found an earring in our bedroom that wasn't mine. A small diamond stud I'd seen Natalie wear. My stomach knotted as I checked our security cameras. If you're watching this, drop a comment with your location and hit subscribe, because trust me, you'll want to see how I handled what came next. Jason and I met at a corporate networking event in downtown Denver. I was representing my marketing firm, and he was there with his architectural company. Our eyes met across the room during a particularly boring keynote speech, and we both couldn't help but smile. He approached me during the cocktail hour, and we instantly connected over our mutual dislike for forced professional mingling and our shared love for hiking the Colorado trails. We dated for 2 years before he proposed during a sunrise hike at Garden of the Gods. The wedding was everything I'd dreamed of, intimate but beautiful, with our closest friends and family surrounding us. That was 7 years ago, and since then, we'd built what I thought was an unshakable foundation. Jason's architecture firm had taken off, specializing in sustainable commercial designs, while I'd climbed the corporate ladder to become the marketing director at a major outdoor apparel company. Our schedules were demanding. Jason often worked late finalizing blueprints or meeting clients, and my position required travel at least twice a month for client meetings or industry conferences. We'd accepted this rhythm as part of our success, always making sure to prioritize our time together when we were both home. Our house in the Denver suburbs was our sanctuary, a modern farmhouse style with large windows that let in the mountain light. Jason had designed most of the renovations himself, creating a space that was both beautiful and functional. When we moved in, we installed a comprehensive security system, not because we felt unsafe, but because we both traveled so frequently. The system included cameras at all entry points and motion sensors that we could monitor from our phones. At the time, it seemed like a practical decision for 2 busy professionals. I never imagined I'd be using that system to discover the ultimate betrayal. Natalie had been in my life since our sophomore year of college. We were randomly assigned as roommates after my previous roommate transferred schools. I still remember the day she burst into our dorm room with 3 suitcases and a giant poster of David Bowie. She had this infectious energy that could light up a room, and despite our different personalities, me more reserved and analytical, her outgoing and spontaneous, we clicked immediately. Throughout college, we became inseparable. We helped each other through finals, bad breakups, and career decisions. After graduation, we managed to land jobs in the same city, and our friendship only strengthened. She was my maid of honor when I married Jason, and 2 years later, I was hers when she married David. Natalie's marriage to David had seemed perfect from the outside. He was a financial analyst, stable, kind, and seemingly devoted to her. Which is why it came as such a shock when she called me one night about a year ago, sobbing that she'd found evidence he'd been having an affair with a colleague. The divorce was messy and painful. David had hidden assets, contested everything, and tried to paint Natalie as unstable and materialistic. I stood by her through all of it, late-night calls, accompanying her to meetings with her attorney, and opening my home to her when she needed space from the negativity. Jason had been supportive too, or so I thought. He would make himself scarce during our girls' nights, preparing dinner for us before heading to his home office or going out with his friends. He checked in on Natalie occasionally, asking how she was holding up and offering to help with some repairs around her new condo after she moved out of the home she'd shared with David. The divorce was finalized 6 months ago, and Natalie seemed to be finding her footing again. She bought herself a new car, a silver Audi she'd always wanted but David had dismissed as impractical. She redecorated her condo in a style that was entirely her own. She even started dating again, though nothing serious. I was proud of how she was rebuilding her life. Looking back, I should have noticed the signs earlier. Jason started being overly attentive, bringing home flowers for no reason, suggesting weekend getaways, asking more questions about my work trips. At the time, I thought he was just being sweet or perhaps responding to all the divorce talk by investing more in our marriage. Then there were the subtle changes in his routine. He started going to the gym more regularly, bought several new shirts without me, and became increasingly protective of his phone. If I entered a room while he was texting, he'd quickly put the phone down or switch screens. Again, I dismissed these changes. We'd always respected each other's privacy, and I told myself he was probably just planning a surprise for our upcoming anniversary. But the day I found Natalie's earring, something shifted inside me. I was doing a deep clean of our bedroom, moving the furniture to vacuum underneath, when I spotted it near Jason's side of the bed, a small diamond stud with a unique platinum setting. I recognized it immediately as part of a pair I'd helped Natalie pick out to celebrate her divorce being finalized. "New beginnings deserve new diamonds," she had said. I held the earring in my palm, trying to concoct innocent explanations. Perhaps she'd lost it during a visit when she used our bathroom to freshen up. Maybe she'd even been in our bedroom to borrow a sweater or use the full-length mirror. But none of these explanations felt right. Natalie hadn't been over in weeks, and even if she had, why would she be in our bedroom? I slipped the earring into my jewelry box and tried to push away the uneasiness. I didn't want to be the suspicious, paranoid wife. I trusted Jason. I trusted Natalie. They were the two most important people in my life. Yet the earring sat in my jewelry box like a tiny ticking bomb, impossible to ignore completely. Over the next few weeks, more oddities accumulated. Jason started showering as soon as he got home some evenings. He suggested I extend a business trip by a day to enjoy some me time. He mentioned Natalie in casual conversation more frequently, but then would quickly change the subject if I asked specific questions about how or when he'd spoken to her. Each incident was small enough to dismiss individually, but together they formed a pattern I couldn't ignore. The uneasy feeling grew into a persistent knot in my stomach. After years of trusting my instincts professionally, I couldn't ignore them in my personal life any longer. Something was happening, and I needed to know what. The business trip to Chicago had been on my calendar for months, a 3-day conference where I was scheduled to speak on a panel about integrated marketing strategies. I'd prepared meticulously, packed efficiently, and was actually looking forward to connecting with industry colleagues. I'd kissed Jason goodbye that morning, noticing how he lingered a bit longer than usual, telling me how much he'd miss me. He even offered to drive me to the airport, which was unusual given our busy schedules. I declined, saying my rideshare was already booked and would earn me travel points. The flight to Chicago was uneventful until we began our final descent. The captain's voice crackled over the intercom, informing us that due to unexpected severe thunderstorms in the Chicago area, we would be diverted to Indianapolis until conditions improved. As we sat on the tarmac in Indianapolis, updates came in about flooding at O'Hare Airport and canceled flights throughout the Midwest. After 3 hours of delays and rebookings, the airline finally canceled all flights to Chicago for the day. The conference organizers sent out an email pushing the opening reception to the following morning to accommodate travel disruptions. I found myself with an unexpected free evening and a decision to make: find a hotel in Indianapolis for the night or head back home to Denver. A last-minute seat opened up on a return flight to Denver. On impulse, I booked it, thinking I could surprise Jason with an unexpected evening together before trying again for Chicago in the morning. I didn't tell him about the change in plans, imagining the look on his face when I walked through the door. Maybe we could order from our favorite Thai place and watch that series we'd been meaning to start. As the plane descended into Denver, I texted Jason casually asking how his day was going, maintaining the illusion I was still traveling to Chicago. His response came quickly, swamped with work. Probably going to be at the office late finalizing the Henderson project. Miss you already. The message should have been reassuring, a normal response from my hardworking husband. Instead, it heightened my unease. The Henderson project had been completed 2 weeks ago. I'd attended the client dinner celebrating its completion. I called him from the airport, but the call went straight to voicemail. I left a breezy message about having landed safely in Chicago, saying I'd call him from the hotel later. My heart was beating faster now, but I still tried to rationalize. Maybe he misspoke about the project. Maybe he was in a meeting and couldn't answer. I took an Uber home, watching through the window as familiar neighborhoods passed by. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across our street as we pulled into our driveway. That's when I saw it, a silver Audi parked in front of our house. Natalie's new car. The one she'd bought after her divorce was finalized. The one she'd proudly shown me with its custom interior and upgraded sound system. I asked the driver to stop at the end of the driveway rather than pulling all the way up. Just remembered I need to grab something from the mailbox, I explained with a forced smile. He helped me get my small suitcase from the trunk, and I thanked him, waiting until he drove away before approaching the house. My hand trembled as I retrieved the spare key from its hidden spot rather than using the electronic keypad that would announce my entry with its characteristic beep. I opened the door as quietly as possible, stepping into the entryway and gently setting down my suitcase. The house was quiet, but not silent. From upstairs came the faint sound of music, our bedroom speaker playing the jazz playlist Jason typically reserved for romantic evenings. Then I heard voices, a low murmur from Jason followed by Natalie's distinctive laugh. I stood frozen at the bottom of the stairs, my mind racing between confrontation and retreat. Part of me wanted to charge upstairs, to force them to face me and explain themselves. But another part, the strategic part that had served me well in my career, counseled patience. If I confronted them now, there would be denials, excuses, attempts to minimize whatever was happening. I needed more than suspicion. I needed certainty. With my heart pounding so loudly I feared they might hear it, I silently backed toward the door, grabbed my suitcase, and slipped out as quietly as I'd entered. Once outside, I leaned against the side of the house, gulping the cool air, trying to steady myself. I walked 2 blocks to a small park where Jason and I sometimes took evening strolls, collapsed onto a bench, and finally let the tears come. How long had this been going on? How many times had they been together in our home, in our bed, while I was away? How could the 2 people I trusted most in the world betray me so completely? After allowing myself 15 minutes of unrestrained grief, I wiped my face, opened my phone, and booked a room at a hotel near the airport. Whatever was happening, I couldn't go back to the house tonight. I needed space to think, to plan, to decide what came next. The hotel room was sterile and impersonal, the perfect blank canvas for my shattered emotions. I paced from window to door and back, my mind replaying every interaction with Jason and Natalie over the past months, searching for clues I'd missed, moments I should have questioned. Their betrayal felt like a physical wound, making it difficult to breathe. Natalie had been by my side through every significant moment of my adult life. She knew my fears, my insecurities, my hopes. She'd stood beside me as I vowed to love and be faithful to Jason. And Jason, the man I'd built my life around, the future I'd invested in, the person I trusted with my most vulnerable self. I cycled through disbelief, anger, and an overwhelming sense of foolishness. Had everyone seen what I'd missed? Had they been laughing at my obliviousness? The humiliation burned almost as much as the betrayal. As the initial shock began to subside, I remembered the security system. From my phone, I could access the cameras and recordings. With shaking hands, I opened the app and logged in, dreading what I might find yet needing to know. The hotel room's silence was broken only by my uneven breathing as I stared at my phone screen, the security app open and waiting. I hesitated before tapping the icon for our home cameras. Some truths, once seen, can never be unseen. But I needed to know exactly what I was dealing with. I started with today's footage. The exterior camera showed Natalie's Audi arriving at 2:17 p.m., just an hour after I'd left for the airport. She walked to the front door with a casual familiarity, not ringing the bell but using the keypad to let herself in. She knew the code. She had access to our home even when I wasn't there. Jason greeted her in the entryway, pulling her into an embrace that went beyond friendly. They kissed with the comfortable intimacy of established lovers, not the furtive passion of a new affair. This wasn't their first time. I felt physically ill watching them move through my home, Jason leading Natalie upstairs with his hand on the small of her back, a gesture he'd used with me countless times. I couldn't bring myself to access the bedroom camera. Some details I didn't need to confirm. Instead, I went back through previous recordings, focusing on days I'd been traveling for work. The pattern emerged with devastating clarity. For at least the past 4 months, Natalie had been visiting regularly when I was away. Sometimes she'd bring food or wine. Once, flowers. Their routine was established, comfortable. My marketing brain noted the irony. I'd built a career helping brands tell compelling stories, yet I'd completely missed the deception playing out in my own home. The evidence was overwhelming and undeniable. Still seeking to understand the full scope of their betrayal, I checked our shared credit card statements. There it was, purchases that had seemed innocent at the time now revealed as part of their affair. A charge at a jewelry store from 2 months ago that Jason had explained as a gift for his mother's birthday. Dinner receipts from restaurants across town on evenings he'd said he was working late. A weekend gas station charge in Aspen during a conference I'd attended in Boston, a weekend he'd told me he was too swamped with work to join me. Then I found the text messages. Jason had always been careful with his phone, but we shared a cloud account for family photos. When I checked the backup data, I discovered a thread of messages between them going back nearly 6 months, beginning with seemingly innocent check-ins about Natalie's divorce but quickly evolving into something more intimate. "Miss you already," Jason had written the day after I'd left for a client meeting in Los Angeles. "Your wife's friend by day, your secret by night," Natalie had responded with a winking emoji. The casual way they referenced me, "Em is leaving Thursday for NYC, come over Wednesday?" felt like additional daggers. They'd been coordinating around my schedule, turning my business trips into opportunities for their affair. In the sterile hotel room, I finally broke down completely. Guttural sobs racked my body as I curled into a ball on the generic floral bedspread. I allowed myself to feel every ounce of the pain, betrayal, and humiliation. The 2 people I trusted most had been systematically deceiving me, turning my absences into their opportunities, sharing intimacies in the home I'd built with my husband. My phone buzzed with a text from Jason, "How's Chicago? Conference going well?" As if he cared. As if he wasn't currently in our bed with my best friend. Then, almost immediately after, a text from Natalie, "Hey girl. Landed safely? Let's catch up when you're back. Miss you." The audacity of their performances made something shift inside me. The overwhelming grief began to crystallize into something harder, clearer. I'd been played for a fool, but I wouldn't remain one. I responded to both messages with casual normalcy, maintaining the fiction that I was in Chicago, unaware of their betrayal. To Jason, "All good here. Tired from travel. We'll call tomorrow." To Natalie, "Just settling in. Super busy schedule but definitely when I'm back." Each deceptively normal response I sent felt like reclaiming a small piece of control. They thought they knew my schedule, my whereabouts, my trusting nature. They'd weaponized that knowledge against me. Now, I would use their confidence against them. The rage that had been building beneath my grief finally broke through. I wasn't just sad, I was furious. At Jason for betraying our vows. At Natalie for betraying our friendship. At myself for being so trusting, so blind to what was happening right under my nose. I paced the hotel room, energy coursing through me despite the emotional exhaustion. I wanted to hurt them as they'd hurt me. I wanted them to feel the same shock, the same betrayal, the same public humiliation. But the strategic part of my brain, the part that had made me successful in my career, knew that immediate, emotional confrontation wouldn't serve me well. If I stormed back to the house now, they'd have excuses prepared. They'd minimize, gaslight, try to make me doubt what I'd seen with my own eyes. They might even try to turn it around on me, my frequent absences, my focus on my career. No, this required something more calculated. Something that would make it impossible for them to deny what they'd done or to control the narrative. Something that would ensure I emerged from this betrayal on my terms, not theirs. As the night deepened, my plan began to take shape. I didn't want simple revenge, I wanted justice, closure, and most importantly, I wanted to reclaim my dignity and self-respect. I wouldn't lower myself to their level of deception and betrayal, but I also wouldn't allow them to dictate how this would end. I opened my laptop and created a new document titled Operation Truth. The act of planning, of taking concrete steps, steadied me. By morning, I had the outline of a strategy that would allow me to confront their betrayal on my terms while protecting myself legally, financially, and emotionally. This wasn't the end of my story. It was the beginning of a new chapter, one where I would no longer be the unwitting supporting character in someone else's deception, but the author. Morning light filtered through the hotel curtains, finding me already awake. I'd slept fitfully, my dreams filled with images of betrayal, but with the new day came clarity and determination. I had a plan to execute and no time to waste on more tears. My first call was to Samantha Powell, my colleague and closest friend at work. Unlike my friendship with Natalie, my relationship with Sam was built on mutual respect and professional admiration that had gradually evolved into genuine care. She'd never been particularly fond of Jason, sensing something in him that I'd been too in love to see. "Sam, I need a huge favor, and it's going to sound strange," I said after exchanging brief pleasantries. "Those are the best kind," she replied. "What's up?" I explained the situation in clinical terms, detailing what I'd discovered without letting emotion overtake me. Sam's gasps and occasional curses provided the appropriate outrage I couldn't currently afford to indulge in. "So you need me to cover for you at the Chicago conference," she summarized when I'd finished. "Make it look like you're there while you're actually here planning your revenge." "Consider it done." "Not revenge," I corrected. "Justice. And closure. Whatever you want to call it, I'm in. I'll take notes at the panels, drop your name in conversations, even post on your social media if you need me to." With Sam handling the professional cover, I moved to the next phase of my plan. I called my parents, telling them I needed to reschedule our planned visit next month due to unexpected developments at home. My mother, always intuitive, sensed something was wrong. "Madison, what's happening? You don't sound like yourself." I hesitated, not ready to say the words aloud to my family. "I can't talk about it yet, Mom. But I will soon. I just need some time." Next, I called Jason's parents, with whom I'd always had a warm relationship. This call was strategic. I needed information without raising suspicions. "Barbara, hi. I was planning a surprise for Jason and wanted to make sure we didn't conflict with any family events you might have planned." Barbara was delighted by my thoughtfulness, confirming there were no family obligations for the next few weeks and volunteering that she and Jason's father were actually taking a cruise to Alaska. Perfect, no chance of them inadvertently interfering with what I had planned. The legal and financial aspects required more careful handling. I found a highly recommended divorce attorney who could see me that afternoon. Before the meeting, I compiled digital copies of all the evidence I'd gathered, security footage, text messages, credit card statements, organizing them into a comprehensive file. Attorney Claire Bennett's office was in a sleek downtown building with views of the mountains. She was younger than I'd expected but exuded competence and compassion as she reviewed my evidence. "This is very thorough," she noted. "Many clients come in with suspicions but little concrete evidence. You've done half my job already." "I'm a marketer," I replied with a grim smile. "Gathering and analyzing data is what I do." Claire walked me through the divorce process, explaining Colorado's status as an equitable distribution state and how infidelity might impact proceedings. She advised me to gather financial documents, secure my personal assets, and document any additional evidence of the affair. "And Madison," she added as our meeting concluded, "whatever confrontation you're planning, and I can see in your eyes that you are planning something, make sure it doesn't compromise your legal position. No property destruction, no threats, nothing that could be construed as harassment." I assured her my plan stayed well within legal boundaries while achieving the emotional closure I needed. From Claire's office, I went directly to meet with a real estate agent I'd researched that morning. Trent Wilson specialized in quick, discreet property assessments. I needed to know the current value of our home and my options for either selling my share or buying Jason out. The market in your neighborhood is hot right now, Trent informed me after I'd explained my situation in the broadest terms. If you decide to sell, you could move quickly and likely at a premium. The knowledge that I had viable housing options was another piece of security in my evolving plan. Back at the hotel, I began the most detailed phase of planning. I created a precise timeline, working backward from the confrontation to ensure every element was in place. I researched and booked a catering company known for last-minute events, selecting a menu that was elegant but carried symbolic weight, dishes that had significance in my relationship with both Jason and Natalie. I contacted a printing company for rush production of a custom banner. The designer asked twice if I was certain about the wording. I confirmed without hesitation. For the technical aspects, I purchased new hidden cameras to supplement our home security system, ensuring that every moment of the confrontation would be documented from multiple angles. Not for legal purposes, the existing evidence was sufficient, but for my own record of their reactions when finally faced with the truth. I selected my outfit carefully, not the vengeful black of a stereotypical wronged wife, but a confident red dress I'd been saving for a special occasion. I booked an appointment at an upscale salon for professional hair and makeup on the day of the confrontation. This wasn't vanity, it was armor. Throughout this methodical planning, I maintained normal communication with both Jason and Natalie. Each message exchange was a performance, each carefully worded text designed to maintain their false sense of security while setting the stage for what was to come. To Jason, conference is going well but exhausting. Might extend my trip by a few days to meet with the Chicago office. His reply came quickly, that makes sense, babe. Do what you need to do. I've got plenty to keep me busy here. I bet you do, I thought, but replied with a simple heart emoji. To Natalie, Chicago is freezing. Want to grab dinner when I'm back? Feel like I haven't seen you in ages. Her response was equally swift, yes. Miss your face. Just let me know when you're free. The casual duplicity in their messages strengthened my resolve. This wasn't a momentary lapse or a one-time mistake. This was a calculated, ongoing deception from the two people who should have been most loyal to me. I reached out to a small circle of true friends, people who weren't connected to Natalie. Sharing abbreviated versions of what had happened and securing their support for the aftermath. I wasn't naive enough to think the confrontation would be the end. I knew I'd need emotional support in the days and weeks that followed. The final piece came together when Samantha called from Chicago. I've been thinking about your plan, she said. It's good, but it's missing something. What's that? A witness. Someone on your side who can be there, not just for support but as a physical reminder that you're not alone in this. Let me be that person. I hadn't considered having anyone else present for the confrontation, but Sam's suggestion made perfect sense. Having her there would prevent Jason and Natalie from trying to gang up on me or twist the narrative. Are you sure? I asked. It might get ugly. That's exactly why you shouldn't face them alone. I can fly back with you. I'll be the calm, silent presence that makes them even more uncomfortable. With Sam's participation confirmed, my plan was complete. I'd created a strategy that allowed me to confront the betrayal on my terms, with my dignity intact, while ensuring both legal and emotional protection. The night before the planned confrontation, I checked into a different hotel, closer to our home. I laid out my clothes for the next day, reviewed my notes one final time, and for the first time since discovering the affair, slept soundly. Whatever happened tomorrow, I would face it with clarity, strength, and the absolute certainty that I deserved better than what they had done to me. The morning of the confrontation arrived with a sense of surreal calm. I awoke before my alarm, a strange stillness having replaced the emotional turbulence of the past few days. Today wasn't about pain or anger, it was about truth and closure. I checked my phone to find a good morning text from Jason, "Miss you. Can't wait until you're home. How's the Chicago office today?" I replied with calculated normalcy, heading into meetings now. Should wrap up everything by tomorrow afternoon. Flight details still TBD. This fiction of me being in Chicago was the foundation of my plan. Jason believed he had at least another full day of freedom to continue his affair, unaware that every moment was now orchestrated toward a specific end. Samantha arrived at my hotel room at 10 a.m., having taken the first morning flight from Chicago. Her presence was grounding, a reminder that not all friendships were like the one Natalie had betrayed. "You look surprisingly good for someone whose life just imploded," she observed, giving me a tight hug. "Turns out betrayal is very motivating," I replied with a grim smile. "Thank you for doing this." "Are you kidding? I wouldn't miss it. Plus, someone needs to make sure you don't commit any felonies, no matter how justified they might be." We reviewed the timeline one more time. My salon appointment was at noon. The caterers would arrive at our house at 4 p.m., with instructions to enter through the garage using the code I'd provided. The banner company would deliver to the caterers for setup. Samantha and I would arrive at 5 p.m., the time I'd calculated would give Jason and Natalie enough time to settle into their routine but before any evening plans they might have made. I'd been monitoring the security cameras from my phone. Jason had left for work at his usual time, maintaining the pretense of his normal routine. I'd checked his calendar. He had a legitimate client meeting until 3 p.m., after which he would typically return to the office. But I suspected today he would head straight home instead, especially if Natalie was available. A quick check of social media confirmed my intuition. Natalie had posted a casual story about working from home today with a photo of her laptop and coffee mug. The mug was from a set in our kitchen. She wasn't even trying to be discreet anymore. At the salon, I was transformed. The hairstylist created a sleek, sophisticated look, not my usual style, but perfect for the occasion. The makeup artist gave me a confidence-boosting application that emphasized strength rather than attempting to hide the emotional toll of the past few days. As I looked in the mirror at the finished result, I barely recognized myself. Not because of the styling, but because of the determination in my eyes. This was a new version of Madison Carter, one who wouldn't be deceived or diminished again. While I was at the salon, Samantha coordinated with the caterers and banner company, ensuring everything was on schedule. She also picked up the special delivery I'd arranged, a box from an exclusive stationery company containing custom-made envelopes with Jason's and Natalie's names in elegant calligraphy. Inside Jason's envelope were divorce papers, prepared by Claire and ready for my signature. Inside Natalie's was a comprehensive portfolio of the evidence I'd gathered of their affair, along with a single-page letter I'd written after careful consideration. By 3:30 p.m., Samantha and I were parked in a coffee shop a few blocks from my house, watching the security feed on my phone. As predicted, Jason arrived home early, at 3:45 p.m. 20 minutes later, Natalie's silver Audi pulled into the driveway. "Right on schedule," Samantha murmured, squeezing my hand. We watched as they entered the house together, Jason guiding her inside with his hand on the small of her back, the same gesture I'd seen days earlier. They moved with the comfortable familiarity of established lovers, heading straight upstairs without any hesitation. At precisely 4 p.m., the catering van arrived. I sent a text to the lead caterer, Melissa, confirming that they should proceed as planned. The garage door opened via the remote code I'd provided, allowing them to enter without alerting Jason and Natalie. Through the kitchen camera, I watched the catering team efficiently set up. They arranged an elegant spread on our dining table, charcuterie boards, small plates of gourmet appetizers, and a selection of pastries. They set up a champagne station with crystal flutes. The centerpiece was a custom cake with "Congratulations on the Truth" written in elegant script. The banner was the final touch, a large, professionally designed sign hung across the living room reading "Celebration of Truth." It was tasteful despite its confrontational message, matching our home's aesthetic in a way that made it all the more impactful. At 4:45 p.m., I received confirmation from Melissa that everything was set up according to plan and the team was ready for our arrival. I texted back that we would be there in 15 minutes and to maintain position in the kitchen until we arrived. Samantha and I left the coffee shop and drove the short distance to my house. We parked a block away, not wanting the sound of car doors to alert Jason and Natalie to an arrival. The walk to the house felt surreal, like approaching a life that was already no longer mine. At exactly 5 p.m., I entered the code to the garage and we stepped inside. The catering team was waiting in the kitchen as instructed, their professional demeanor perfect for the occasion. I nodded to Melissa, who gathered her team and followed Samantha and me toward the living room. I could hear faint music from upstairs, the same jazz playlist I'd heard days ago. They had no idea what awaited them downstairs. I took a deep breath, catching my reflection in the hallway mirror. The woman looking back at me was poised, dignified, and ready to reclaim her story. With Samantha at my side and the catering team behind us, I called out in a clear, steady voice that carried throughout the house. "Jason? Natalie? Could you come down? There's a special delivery for you both." The music upstairs stopped abruptly. In the sudden silence, I could hear muffled voices, then quick footsteps. Jason appeared at the top of the stairs first, his expression shifting from confusion to shock as he took in the scene below, me standing in the entryway I wasn't supposed to be in for another day, Samantha beside me, and the catering team arranging final touches on the elaborate spread. "Madison? What, I thought you were in Chicago," he stammered, frozen halfway down the stairs. "Clearly," I replied, my voice steady despite my racing heart. "Is Natalie going to join us? This celebration is for both of you." As if on cue, Natalie appeared behind Jason, hastily dressed with her hair still disheveled. Her face drained of color when she saw me. "Oh my God," she whispered, one hand flying to her mouth. "Please, come down," I gestured to the living room where the Celebration of Truth banner now hung prominently. "The food will get cold, and we have so much to discuss." Jason descended the stairs slowly, as if approaching a wild animal. Natalie followed several steps behind, her confident demeanor completely evaporated. "Madison, I can explain," Jason began, using the soothing tone he'd always employed when trying to manage a situation. "This isn't what it looks like." I laughed, a genuine sound of disbelief that seemed to startle everyone, including myself. "Actually, Jason, this is exactly what it looks like. Please, both of you, have a seat." The caterers had finished arranging everything and now stood professionally aligned near the dining area. Melissa stepped forward. "We've prepared a selection of appetizers for your Celebration of Truth event," she announced with perfect professionalism. "The champagne is chilled and ready to be served whenever you'd like." "Thank you, Melissa," I smiled. "We'll take it from here." As the catering team retreated to the kitchen, still within earshot but giving the illusion of privacy, Jason made another attempt. "Maddie, please, let's talk about this privately," he pleaded, pointedly looking at Samantha. "Samantha stays," I said firmly. "Unlike some people in this room, she understands the meaning of loyalty." Natalie hadn't spoken yet. She stood slightly apart from Jason, her eyes darting between us and the elaborate setup. The banner seemed to hold her attention most, its elegant script declaring the end of their deception. "I don't understand what this is," she finally said, her voice small. "Don't you?" I picked up a remote from the coffee table and pressed a button. The large TV mounted on our living room wall came to life, displaying a grid of security camera footage. "Perhaps this will help clarify things." I selected a clip from 3 days ago, Natalie entering our house using the keypad, Jason greeting her with a kiss that left no doubt about their relationship. I let it play for 30 seconds before pausing. "This is from Monday," I explained unnecessarily. But I could show similar footage from at least 16 other occasions over the past 4 months. All conveniently scheduled during my business trips. Jason's face had gone pale. "You were spying on me? In our own home?" "No, Jason. I was securing my property with a system we both agreed to install. The fact that it captured your infidelity is just an unfortunate side effect for you. I turned to Natalie. I especially enjoyed your Instagram story today. Nice mug. It's from our kitchen set, isn't it? Natalie flinched. Madison, you have to believe me, this wasn't planned. It just happened. 16 times? I interrupted. It just happened 16 times? With coordinated schedules and secret key codes? I shook my head. That's not something that just happens, Natalie. That's a deliberate choice you both made, repeatedly, to betray me. I clicked the remote again, and the screen displayed text messages between them. Messages discussing my schedule, planning their meetups, occasional references to guilt quickly dismissed with justifications. Madison, enough, Jason stood up, attempting to reassert control. Turn that off. This is humiliating. Yes, I agreed calmly. It is humiliating. Now you know how I felt when I discovered my husband and best friend were sleeping together in my bed while I was working to support our lifestyle. Samantha, who had been a silent, supportive presence until now, spoke up. You might want to sit down, Jason. She's just getting started, and trust me, standing will only make you look more foolish when your legs give out. Jason glared at her but sank back onto the couch. Natalie had started crying silently, tears tracking through her makeup. I don't understand why you're doing this, she sobbed. If you knew, why not just confront us normally? Why this production? Because you robbed me of my dignity behind my back, so I'm reclaiming it to your faces, I replied. And because I wanted you both to experience even a fraction of the shock and betrayal I felt when I came home early from my cancelled flight and heard you in my bedroom. This revelation caused fresh alarm on both their faces, the realization that I had almost caught them in the act. You were here? In the house? Jason asked hoarsely. Briefly. Just long enough to recognize the sounds of betrayal. I moved toward the dining table and picked up the 2 calligraphed envelopes. Now, I have something for each of you. I handed Jason his envelope first. He opened it with trembling hands, his expression hardening as he recognized the divorce papers inside. You can't be serious, he said, but his tone lacked conviction. I've never been more serious about anything, I assured him. My attorney is expecting your response within the timeframe specified. I suggest you find your own representation quickly. Natalie accepted her envelope with visible trepidation. Her gasp when she saw the contents was audible. How did you get these? She whispered, flipping through the evidence portfolio, screenshots, photos, financial records, all documenting their affair in methodical detail. I'm very good at my job, Natalie. Gathering and analyzing data is what I do. Did you really think I wouldn't figure it out eventually? I paused, watching her continue to process the extent of the documentation. The letter explains my terms for discretion. Terms? She looked up, confused. Yes. I have no intention of publicly humiliating you. Unlike you, I don't believe in causing unnecessary pain. But there are conditions to my silence, outlined clearly in that letter. Jason, who had been scanning the divorce papers, looked up sharply. These terms are ridiculous. This is punishment, not equitable division. They're completely reasonable given the circumstances, I countered. And as my attorney will happily explain to yours, infidelity is considered when determining equitable distribution in Colorado. Especially when it involves financial infidelity as well. I clicked the remote one more time, displaying credit card statements highlighting Jason's expenses related to the affair, dinners, gifts, a weekend getaway to Aspen. The Henderson project wasn't running late all those nights, was it, Jason? I asked quietly. That project was completed weeks ago. I attended the client dinner myself. His face flushed with the realization that his lies were fully exposed. He had no defense, no plausible explanation, no way to minimize what they'd done. Natalie attempted one more time to mitigate the situation. Madison, I know we can never fix this, but you have to understand, Jason and I connected during a vulnerable time for me. After David's betrayal, I was broken, and Jason was there. Stop, I held up my hand. Do not insult me by suggesting that your betrayal was somehow a healing response to being betrayed yourself. You knew exactly what this would do to me. You made that choice anyway. I picked up a champagne flute and filled it halfway. I'm not interested in your justifications or excuses. This, I gestured to the elaborate setup around us, isn't an invitation for dialogue. It's a declaration. Our friendship is over. My marriage is over. And you both get to live with the knowledge that you did this, not just to me, but to yourselves. I raised my glass in a mock toast. To the truth. It's not always comfortable, but it's always illuminating. I took a sip of the champagne, then set the glass down carefully. Jason, you have until tomorrow evening to pack your essential belongings and find somewhere else to stay. My attorney will contact you about arrangements for collecting the rest of your things. The house will be listed for sale next week. You can't just decide that unilaterally, he protested, though with noticeably less conviction than before. Actually, I can and I have. Check section 4 of the documents you're holding. As Jason flipped to the relevant page, I turned to Natalie. As for you, I suggest you leave now. Review the contents of that envelope carefully. My terms are non-negotiable. Natalie stood shakily, clutching the envelope to her chest. Madison, please, we've been friends for 12 years. We can't end like this. We ended the moment you decided my husband was more important to you than our friendship, I replied. This is just the acknowledgement of that fact. As Natalie moved toward the door, I added, oh, and Natalie? I found your earring. The diamond stud by the bed. It's what started this whole investigation. You might want to be more careful with expensive jewelry in the future. She flinched as if I'd slapped her, then hurried out without another word. The front door closed behind her with a quiet finality. Jason remained seated, the divorce papers limp in his hands. What now? He asked, his voice hollow. Now, you leave too, I said simply. Samantha will stay while you pack an overnight bag. The caterers have been paid in full, feel free to take some food with you. It seems a shame to waste it. As Jason trudged upstairs to pack, defeated and exposed, Samantha approached and put her arm around my shoulders. You okay? She asked quietly. I took a deep breath, surprised to find that I actually was. The confrontation had gone exactly as planned, controlled, dignified, and conclusive. The weight of deception had been lifted, replaced by the clarity of truth and the first tentative sense of freedom. I will be, I answered, and for the first time in days, I truly believed it. The days following the confrontation passed in a blur of practical arrangements and emotional processing. Jason moved out that evening as instructed, taking only enough for a few days and looking like a shadow of the confident man I'd married. He didn't argue or attempt to justify himself again, the evidence had been too overwhelming, the betrayal too complete to defend. The house, once our sanctuary, now felt tainted. I stayed with Samantha for the first week, returning only to meet with the real estate agent and begin the process of sorting through 7 years of accumulated possessions. The agent assured me that despite the circumstances, the property would likely sell quickly in the current market. People buy houses, not histories, he'd said kindly. And this is a beautiful home in a desirable neighborhood. My attorney, Claire, handled the divorce proceedings with ruthless efficiency. Jason's initial attempt to contest the terms quickly crumbled when confronted with the extensive evidence of his infidelity and financial deceptions. The process that could have dragged on for months was settling into an accelerated timeline. As for Natalie, she had respected my terms for discretion, public silence and complete separation in exchange for my keeping the evidence private. Our mutual friends inevitably asked questions, wondering about our sudden estrangement. I offered only the vague explanation that we had grown apart due to a significant breach of trust, leaving them to draw their own conclusions. 3 weeks after the confrontation, as I was boxing up books in what had been our home office, the doorbell rang. I opened the door to find a courier with an envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter from Natalie, 6 pages of apology, explanation, and self-recrimination. She wrote about her devastation after her own husband's betrayal, the vulnerability that had led to inappropriate confidences with Jason, and how an initial moment of weakness had spiraled into months of deception. She acknowledged the inexcusable pain they had caused and accepted full responsibility for betraying my friendship. The letter ended with a plea for forgiveness, not reconciliation, she clarified, as she understood that was impossible, but forgiveness for my own peace of mind. I read the letter once, carefully and completely, then tore it into small pieces and dropped them into the trash. Perhaps someday forgiveness would come, but it wouldn't be prompted by her need for absolution. It would happen on my timeline, for my healing, not to ease her guilt. By the 2-month mark, significant changes had solidified my new reality. The house sold for above asking price, allowing me to purchase a modern apartment in a vibrant downtown neighborhood, a fresh start in a space that held no memories of betrayal. The divorce was nearing finalization, with the settlement largely reflecting my initial terms. I had maintained my professional commitments throughout, finding that work provided both distraction and affirmation of my capabilities. Most importantly, I had begun therapy with Dr. Leanne Morris, a specialist in betrayal trauma. Our weekly sessions provided a safe space to process the complex emotions that continued to surface, not just anger and grief, but questions about my own judgment and ability to trust again. "What you're experiencing is completely normal," Dr. Morris assured me during one particularly difficult session. "Being deceived by the 2 people closest to you creates a unique kind of trauma. It challenges your basic understanding of reality and relationships." "I keep wondering what I missed," I admitted. "There must have been signs beyond the ones I eventually noticed." "Perhaps there were," she acknowledged. "But Madison, even if that's true, it doesn't make their betrayal your responsibility. We trust those we love, that's not naive, it's human." Gradually, I began reconstructing my social life. Some friendships that had been primarily connected to Jason or Natalie naturally faded, but others strengthened. Samantha remained a steadfast presence, introducing me to her wider circle of friends who welcomed me without questions or judgment. I found myself developing new relationships based on shared interests rather than shared history. A cooking class led to dinner outings with fellow culinary enthusiasts. A weekend hiking group connected me with outdoor adventurers. 6 months after the confrontation, I received an unexpected delivery at my office, a small, elegant envelope containing Natalie's diamond stud earring and a note that read simply, "You were right. I should be more careful with valuable things." The implied acknowledgement that our friendship had been valuable, and that she had been careless with it, hit me harder than I anticipated. I placed the earring in a small box in my desk drawer, not quite ready to discard it but unwilling to wear it or give it prominence in my life. That evening, I mentioned the delivery to Dr. Morris during our session. "How did it make you feel?" she asked. "Sad," I replied after consideration. "Not angry anymore, just sad for what was lost. Not just my marriage and friendship, but my trust in my own judgment." "That trust can be rebuilt," she assured me. "Not quickly, and perhaps not in the same form, but it can grow again. You've already shown remarkable resilience." The divorce was finalized after 7 months, significantly faster than the 7 years the marriage had lasted. I signed the papers in Claire's office, feeling a complex mixture of regret and relief. As I walked out of the building, I realized I was no longer wearing my wedding ring. I couldn't remember exactly when I'd stopped putting it on. The transition had been gradual, unconscious, a natural evolution rather than a deliberate statement. 1 year after the confrontation, I accepted a promotion that required relocation to Seattle, a move that would have been impossible within my marriage to Jason. The opportunity represented not just professional advancement but a complete fresh start in a new city. As I packed up my apartment, I came across the box containing Natalie's earring. After a moment's contemplation, I donated it to a charity auction supporting survivors of domestic abuse, transforming a symbol of betrayal into something potentially helpful for others facing their own difficult transitions. My last night in Denver, Samantha and several other close friends gathered for a farewell dinner. The conversation flowed easily, punctuated by laughter and promises to visit. Looking around the table, I felt a profound gratitude for these relationships that had supported me through the darkest period of my life. A toast, Samantha raised her glass. To Madison, who showed us all what dignity looks like in the face of betrayal, and what strength looks like in the aftermath. As glasses clinked and warm wishes surrounded me, I realized that while the betrayal had nearly broken me, it had ultimately revealed a resilience I hadn't known I possessed. The painful ending of my marriage and friendship had forced me to rebuild not just my external life but my relationship with myself. In Seattle, I gradually began dating again, cautiously at first, then with increasing confidence. I was different now, more attuned to my instincts, clearer about my boundaries, less willing to overlook inconsistencies. This wasn't paranoia but wisdom earned through painful experience. 18 months after discovering the affair, I met Michael, an environmental engineer with kind eyes and a straightforward manner. Our relationship developed slowly, each of us carrying lessons from past relationships that made us value honesty above almost everything else. When I eventually shared the full story of my marriage's end, his response was compassion without pity, respect without reverence. "Thank you for trusting me with that," he said simply. "It can't have been easy to open up again after experiencing such betrayal." "It wasn't," I acknowledged. "And sometimes it still isn't. But I've learned that while trust is always a risk, closing yourself off completely is a guaranteed loss. Betrayal changes you, there's no way around that truth." The blind faith I once had in relationships was gone, replaced by something more measured but perhaps more sustainable. I would never again ignore my instincts or dismiss inconsistencies to preserve my idea of what my life should be. But I had also refused to let betrayal define me or determine my capacity for connection. Pain, when we allow ourselves to fully experience it rather than avoid it, can be transformative. The betrayal by my husband and best friend had forced me to confront fundamental questions about trust, worthiness, and resilience. The answers I'd found hadn't erased the scars but had integrated them into a stronger, more authentic sense of self. As I look back now, I recognize that what Jason and Natalie did was never about my inadequacy but about their inability to honor commitments, to prioritize integrity over temporary desire, to treat those who loved them with basic respect. Understanding this doesn't excuse their actions, but it does place responsibility. The journey from betrayal to healing isn't linear or predictable. There are still days when anger resurfaces or when trust feels impossibly fragile. But those moments no longer define me or dictate my choices. Instead, they serve as reminders of how far I've come and what I'm no longer willing to accept. If you're watching this and facing your own betrayal, know that the path forward exists, even when you can't yet see it. The reconstruction of your life may look different than you imagined, but it can still be beautiful, meaningful, and filled with genuine connection. Trust your instincts, honor your pain without becoming it, and remember that how others treat you reflects their character, not your worth. Have you ever experienced betrayal that ultimately led to unexpected growth? What helped you move forward? Share your story in the comments below, and if this resonated with you, please like and subscribe. Your experiences might help someone else feeling alone in their pain. Thank you for witnessing my journey, and I wish you truth, healing, and relationships worthy of your trust.